Mm-hmm.
Hello. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Saturday. Let's roll Patrick's walk-in music, and then we'll get going.
This podcast contains adult themes and language. The views expressed here are our own opinions and experiences. We are not medical professionals.
In this podcast, we discuss our opinions about mental health, sobriety, addiction, and our pursuit of happiness and peace. This is Sober Mind.
Good morning, Judy, my love. How are you? How are you doing this week?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I found myself getting a little short-tempered and snazzy yesterday and today. I don't know if it's a change in weather. Snazzy, Patrick.
Snazzy.
That's right. Patrick, my dear friend, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm in a much better place now.
Oh, good.
Music just always puts me, it's like a light switch.
Good. Yeah, I don't know what happens. I don't know. You know what? Just good morning, Michelle. Good morning, Ed.
Morning.
I got to remind myself, this is probably very apropos, that shit, with all this stuff we go through, from a mental health perspective and constantly staring down the barrel of sobriety and all that good jazz, we're allowed to have some bad days.
Yes, we are definitely allowed to have bad days.
Sometimes I get a little tired of working on myself. But so I don't know. What gets me, all my close friends know this, is this Midwest portion of the year. Once the humidity starts like it does today, Patrick, just out of the blue, something happens to my soul. I'll rebound. I'm into it. But man, like my run this morning, I lost a gallon of water. It's just like winter, spring a little bit, and summer. It's like we had the heater on last week, and then we may have to turn the AC on today. It's supposed to be 90. Who knows?
90 with clouds and a lot of humidity.
Yep. Sticky.
Sticky. Yeah, it's humid when you walk on your kitchen floor and it feels wet, even though it's not.
Yeah. But that's why we have.
Why is everything sweating so much?
Yeah.
But that's why we have the lush green grass and trees. Man, it's looking beautiful out there.
Yeah.
Okay. After our walk to Hobbiton is done here, we're going to go ahead and get started. We'll get some ambient music going in the background. We're just going to have a chill discussion. Just if you're just joining and new to the current format that we're doing, we are continuing on with the 11 oddly specific childhood trauma issues from Patrick Tehan. He's a licensed independent children's social worker. Yeah, nailed it, Patrick. I'm subscribed to him. He does a lot of really interesting stuff, and it seems to me like he's gone through a bunch of this stuff. He relates to a lot of it. I do too. So what we did, just to give a recap, we went with emotional delay was the first one. Very interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Rushing nowhere. I found Judy and I doing that lately. Like, hey, get this ready, do that. Like, just calm down.
Just there's no time clock.
No. Rushing nowhere was good, and then refrigerator buzz depression. I've really been thinking about that one too. That was amazing.
A good one.
And then last week, being tired is a trigger. I've really paid attention to that. In fact, I've caught myself a couple times. Man, I really analyze. I wake up, and if I didn't get a good rest, man, my psyche is it's kind of a jumble. which some people do well with the not sleeping well stuff. I don't know. For me, it's really dramatic. I'm sensitive to it. And then I'll catch myself throughout the day like, I'm going to go take a nap. Wake up from a nap, completely different person. Thoughts, Judith?
You pretty much nailed it. I liked the refrigerator buzz because that made me think about, reevaluate my past and how my growing up and how I was during my adolescent period, and to realize that I was actually depressed through a good portion of, my adolescent times, and it made a lot of sense. It also made me think about a lot of my past, and I was just thinking about this earlier today, that being sober, a lot of stuff has actually started, a lot of memories that I had either suppressed with alcohol or pot or whatever, have started to resurface. And I didn't even realize that they were there. And all of a sudden, bam, this memory from way back when just jumps in my head. And I was like, oh shit, yeah, that's right. That did happen. Oh, crap. Well, no wonder why. I mean, there's just these explanations of why I am who I am now. It just solidifies some of the teachings that we're learning.
Yeah. I have really paid attention to that too. Sorry.
Thanks.
You got a lot going on, John.
I know. I had a Spotify window over and Judy couldn't see us.
I couldn't see anything.
I need a producer. Like we talked about last time, Patrick, you gave me some kudos for stopping when I felt a little bit of I don't want to call it depression, but I was getting the blues just driving down the road. It's a train wreck inside of this head sometimes, but I was like, that's when I stopped and I said, have I felt like this before? And I recognized the emotion and how I felt. And so I've done that with other things. Just sometimes I just got to stop and think, what's going on? Slow down, address the issue, see how you're feeling, check in with myself, see what's going on. Because with my sobriety and continued mental health, internal evaluation and work, those strong emotions, the dissociation, the anxiety, the depression when it happens, it hasn't happened in a long time. It's been over a month. This has been fantastic. This medication's amazing. But those things get very noisy for me. So it's good to be able to sit back and go, all right, hold on. This is not that bad, even though, man, it feels not good at all. I just kind of have to allow it to happen and go through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's what my therapist, not psychiatrist, said, but my therapist said a while ago. She said, I know it's you can't stop it, so just kind of embrace it and let it happen.
Yeah, I think those traumatic issues in the past, they were traumatic, and those feelings that you're feeling now are throwing you back into that traumatic event, even though you're not in a traumatic event now.
Yeah. And also I remembered this tidbit from a therapist I think I saw on YouTube. She said, I think it was Tracy Marks. She said, just the act of smiling, the muscles and everything that it does can sort of help alleviate stuff. So I was in Walmart the other day walking around like this. And people were looking at me. I think they called security. I had that face on for like a half an hour. It did not help.
You fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
I'm willing myself to be happy. Leave me alone.
Yeah. I'm smiling, really.
But that's what's funny too. You give yourself some levity too. The juxtaposition of you walking around in Walmart going, like you have to kind of giggle at the absurdity of that. So being able to give yourself the space, there's opportunity for a genuine smile to sneak in there, when you surround yourself with, just recognizing that you're giving yourself space and you're cultivating your soul at that point.
Yeah.
What I want to know, if you guys have any kind of advice on this one, is what do you do when your inner child wants to throw a Class A fit? I mean, pick up shit and throw it across the room, scream, yell. I mean, just, Class A fit. What do you do?
Go for a run. Go get on the power tower and try to do some pull-ups.
It's definitely very physically oriented for sure. I get to watch my son do it almost on the daily. Not to say that they're long durations, but maybe at the end of the day or off to school, it's very easy where you just turn into the jumping, screaming, whatever, and then there's some days where I have to realize just I'm not going to fix it right there, and just giving him 5 minutes to jump, scream, whatever to get it out. Then I can talk to him on the other side, because the act of the physical release in itself is, that there's some therapy there for that. So yeah, like John said, for me, I don't know if it's either my background or, or just me in general, but it makes me want to crawl out of my skin. So, the core of that, past me would be very, I don't want to say violent, but I wanted to physically break a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Throw something at the wall.
Yep.
Yeah. Because there's been times when I'm just in one of those moods, and I just want my inner child, not necessarily me, but my inner child wants to just throw a fit, a just full on grade A fit. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know why it's happening, but it's just, and it seems to be, I'm fine. And then bam, there it is. And there's no trigger. There's nothing happening external that I can think of that is, causing it. It's just bam, there it is.
A heavy bag is great.
We used to have one.
Yeah. Or like Patrick has publicly admitted, he just runs somewhere and snaps one off.
Can't be too angry after that.
Or he can angrily snap one off. Don't let anyone catch you. Okay, let's jump into today's Patrick Teehan discussion. It is Chameleon, but don't mix. I didn't like that title, but it's what it is. He's got that up there, and it's basically talking about. Well, I have not watched it. Patrick, did you watch this one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Judy has not watched it, so we're gonna jump into it all together here. Perfect timing as the music is going off here. All right.
Moving on to number 5 is something that I call chameleon, but don't mix. Certain friends can't know about certain friends. This one isn't just about being a chameleon where we can change vibes and personas to fit in. I remember in high school, I could hang out with the jocks or the burnouts or the nerds and be part of them and switch gears and kind of, adapt to whatever social situation. I just really think it's many of us kind of can do that growing up in childhood trauma, because we don't really have our own authentic sense of self, so we can just take on a whole bunch of personas. It's a skill of adapting, but we struggle with knowing what our real identity is, to not being able to develop one in safety like other healthy kids might be able to do that. So an added layer to this is not mixing. For some reason, we have issues around coworkers that we like not meeting our outside friends. Like, we tend to compartmentalize a little bit, or there's something going on there. This one may not be unique to you. This one is very specific. It might come from trauma in the following ways. Many of us hit our home life, and the hiding of our family or original group was happening really early. We might be hiding about intimate secrets and things like my dad works for the government, when the reality is your dad works at a sewage treatment plant and you're hiding some kind of reality there. Parents could model similar things around not mixing because of their own shame or their own hiding. Another idea is that mixing could have had terrible consequences, like for kids in the divorce, and they pick up on all the energy going around in the bigger family system about going to grandma's who now trash talks mom or something like that. And surviving trauma can be about keeping things separate, to not hear criticism from one party to the next. So that might be some reasons. So some treatment ideas for chameleon but don't mix. Start to take some risk and simply introduce others to each other if you have different friend circles. Dialogue again with the inner child and walk through what the fear of what is going to happen if this person knows that person. How could things go wrong according to them? And embrace the idea that there's safety in adulthood, that people can make their own choices about vibing with each other or liking each other. Moving on to number 6. This one is a big...
That's a good one. I got a lot to discuss. Who wants to go first?
I just was gonna say that when he was talking about being in high school and floating between different, I would call it cliques. Yeah, I was the same way. I could float between all different types of cliques: the sports, the jocks, the drama queens, the backstage rockers. I could float between all of them. I was never actually a major part of any of them, but I could float between all of them. That was definitely me.
Mine was a little bit different. I think I could do that too, but where I went to school, we didn't have all of that. No, didn't know what the drama club was. We had stoners and jocks, and then I guess the normal kids. But what I did, which it took me a long time, even until my adult life, to not do this anymore, is okay. We were on welfare and food stamps. I was always really embarrassed. I never, ever had a kid from school, not grade school, not high school, never ever over at our place. I was so embarrassed of our poorness.
Oh, I remember standing in line for government cheese and butter.
Yeah, it's not unusual to feel ashamed. I think maybe if you have a different parental support system, it'd be okay. Patrick, I don't know if you had this, but I had to stand there's a separate line for the free lunch kids, which is, it's like, can't they figure out a way to intermingle us somehow?
That's just basically shining a light on, you're poor.
And it's the worst, man. For me, it was the worst because my, 6th, 7th grade, hormones are raging. You have crushes on girls, and who knows? The majority of the girls that I like, they're probably crackheads now. Yeah, that's right. I said it. All you hot chicks in 8th grade are crackheads now. But because you peaked too soon. Just like the one guy in high school, I'll never forget this guy, man. He had like a full chest hair. It looked like Wolverine, and he was a senior. Just like
Matthew McConaughey in Dazed and Confused.
Yeah.
And I just, man, in gym class, I just felt I barely had pubes. I felt man, my self-esteem was just shot. But I guess maybe if I had a dad, I know there's the woe is me. If I would have had a dad that could have maybe gave me some better coaching or told me, hey, it's okay, or here's where we're at, blah, 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 it'd be okay. But yeah, I was embarrassed of all those things. School dances. I don't know, man. It just, I let a huge fakery. And I tried to kind of put on like I was, maybe a little bit wealthier than, well, a lot. Like once I got a pair of 501s, I tried to keep those brand new forever. Somehow I ended up getting way back in the day, the original Air Jordans, the black and red ones. By the way, I'm saying it, super shitty shoe, wildly uncomfortable. The thing is highly overrated. Anyway, that was me. It wasn't, remember, until we we lived in Greenwood, and we would start to have people over. And I even told you one day, I'm like, this is the first time we've ever really done this. I don't.
Yeah, we didn't have people over at in Fairfield or at
We
once,
did,
I think.
but that was the fakery of it.
Yeah.
That was the only select few
Yeah,
people
only select few.
that were into, debauchery like we were, and there was never anybody from work.
No.
I don't know, Patrick.
Well, I had some
Oh,
people
sorry.
from Massage Envy, but that was because they were all potheads. So, but yeah, I remember standing in line, and unfortunately, I was a freshman in high school, and before in grade school, I think I was like 7th and 8th grade as well. The line for government cheese and government butter was right in front of the high school. So we had to stand right in front of the high school
Oh, Jesus.
with all of our, the people that went to high school. I mean, it was on a weekend, but still, you had kids that were still around there, that lived around there, that could see you standing in line to get the government butter and government cheese. Michelle knows about this.
Yeah, oddly enough, same thing. But I bet people are asking, well, why wasn't your mother in that line? Because they were embarrassed, and they would send us kids to go do that shit. My mom used to have me take food stamps. There were literal paper monies back then. It would say like $1 government something or other. And she would have me. She would go over to like 7-Eleven or something, Circle K in California, and take $1 and go in and buy a pack of gum. It was 25 cents, and that's a food. So that way they would give us 75 cents back in actual currency. And we would do that for like all day long. Shit was just embarrassing.
Mm-hmm. My sister said, talk about having to go to activities and not wanting to tell our friends, because we had to go to the Buddhist activities a lot, and we didn't want to tell our friends, and we didn't want to have our friends come over. I remember I was having a Halloween party. For the first time, I had actually invited people over to my house to have a Halloween party. Before the Halloween party, we had to do our evening prayer. Well, we were doing our evening prayer, and some of the kids started to show up, and they wouldn't let me stop. I had to finish what we were doing, and I had to tell the kids to wait on the porch. Well, the kids went and told their parents that we were in there doing something, chanting or making noise. And so their parents said, oh, no, you need to get back in the car. We're driving away. And unfortunately, it was one of the kids that I had a crush on. I went back out to get him off the porch, and he was gone, completely gone.
Jesus.
I was I was devastated. And he never, ever brought it up again. I had to actually explain to him, I'm sorry, we're actually Buddhists, and we were doing our evening prayer. We weren't worshiping the devil or anything like that.
Nighttime is the right time. The nighttime is the right time. The nighttime is the right time.
So it was very, for a kid growing up with, I'm sure, Jehovah's Witness or any other non, major religion. I'm sure it was probably devastating for them too, to not experience things like every other Christian or Catholic or whoever, the mainstream acceptable religion, quote unquote, had to deal with. But yeah, we had to deal with a lot. People would ask, well, what are you doing this weekend? Well, we have to go to meetings, and we have to go to this, and we have to go to that. And we had to go to Katekitai, which was an all-girls band, marching band that we were in, that we had to go practice. And we had to go to Kozumu Fugongyo, which was the first Sunday of every month. Or we had to go, oh my gosh, this was so embarrassing. We had to go do Shakabuku, which was just like the Mormons and the Jehovah's Witness. We had to go door to door and ask people if they've heard of our religion. Yeah, that was uncomfortable. So, I mean, being a kid and growing up like that, that was very much one of those things that you didn't invite your friends over for that kind of thing.
I never knew you guys were embarrassed of that. Maybe you and Michelle talked about it, but I was probably drunk at the time. That sucks.
Yeah. That door-to-door thing was, oh my God, I was mortified. I was mortified because I wouldn't want somebody, I don't like them when they do it to me, so why would I want to do it to them?
I could imagine.
But yeah, so those were sections of my life that I didn't want to mix together.
I can sympathize with that. I was definitely chameleon and don't mix. Mine's a first world problem version of it, and I had some others that I had difficulty with, but one that I remember that I was really hung up on was, when I was in high school, I was a mathlete as well as a athlete, and I didn't want my sports friends knowing that I was, competing.
That you were a geek.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, that's a first world problem of some of that, but at the core of these, there's two items here. One is the chameleon side, and then the other is the don't mixing side. But both are fundamentally rooted in us seeking validation in others, right? And how we perceive ourselves. So ultimately, when we're among these people, we are always asking ourselves, how are we seen and how are we being judged? The chameleon side speaks to us like our compartmentalization, where we know, I don't know how to express myself in its fullest, and I just want to be validated, so I can wear these group's traits. However, as long as I'm validated by this group, when I'm with the burnouts, I know how to speak with the burnouts and sympathize with them, right? Or if I'm with the jocks, I know how to, speak that language and kind of be in that group, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we do that group to group, so we are just seeking validation from each. And then the chameleon side is the further don't mix is further compartmentalization. This group sees me as X. This my group of friends see me as a cool person. If they were to see me with this other group, or if this other group were to let them know that I am this type of person, then that would invalidate me.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
If the sports people knew I was a nerd, then I would not be validated amongst the sports people. So it's always, a core, those are traits of a strong people pleaser, the chameleon and don't mix.
Yeah.
Because you can learn how to please a lot of different people, a lot of different groups. And you pride yourself on being able to, quote unquote, intermix and kind of move seamlessly between them.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Very much. That was very much. I felt very proud of myself that I could flow between all different types of groups.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't want my athlete friends to know about my rocker stoner friends. No, those none the twain shall meet.
So it sounds like all three of us had sort of the same dichotomy with this, but imagine living in an area. I'm just going to throw this out there. Don't send me any hate mail, but like North Dakota, where you might be the only non-white kid in school. Or
right.
Imagine the stuff that we deal with is probably small potatoes compared to the stuff that Emily was talking about, figuring out your sexuality. And then, man, talk about remember the level of hiding amongst everything that she had to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'm a cisgender hetero white male born into, middle class-ish, rural America. Like I will recognize the amount of privilege that comes with that for sure. There's other socioeconomic, racial, and gender issues, or orientations that I couldn't even imagine trying to deal with. Some of the, going up against the we talk about the chameleon but don't mix, those identity crises could be very extreme, act like a certain way in front of certain people, especially when groups are segregated as much as they are,
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a confession time from John. I have a
Secret time.
yeah, not Bert Kreischer secret time. Not that bad. Funny show. I don't know where this comes from, but I have a very deep empathy for the LGBTQ plus community, and I don't want to use the derogatory term, but I have a very good sense if someone's homosexual, and I have this innate desire to let them know
that it's okay.
Yeah,
that you're cool with it.
Yeah, talk about the huge rescuer in me, Patrick. But that's really how I became friends with Sarah. I was like, hey, because where we worked, it was never really, broadcast or anything. And so I remember I told her, I'm like, hey, would you like to go out with Judy and I, you and your significant other? And then it kind of came out, but I don't know where I get that from. I think it's probably my stance on bullies. I am the bully on bullies. I can't stand bullies. It drives me nuts. And I think the older and mature I've gotten, I don't like anyone being picked on for anything, race, social beliefs, religion. Hold on. Unless it's something I don't agree with, like, no, some of the extremes, like something that's out of the social norm, like, I don't think your weird alt Christian belief as a neo-Nazi should be protected. It's going against what I feel is protected stuff, but I don't know. I just want to. I probably do it too much, so I got to be careful because I need to be respectful of people's feelings. But I'm always that guy, like, hey, it's okay. It's okay to be you.
I mean, it's that you mentioned the rescuer, right? And it's also a bit of projection in there. Like, you were not afforded the space to affirm yourself, and this chameleon aspect of chameleon don't mix, the fact that growing up we do tell ourselves, and I think it's a wonderful gift, that gave me my empathy towards humanity and learning all different walks of life and different creeds. Granted, there may have been some malintent trying to seek validation from all those different groups going from one to the other. But along the journey, I also got to see many other different groups and learn different aspects of people, infinite possibilities and infinite combinations, So in that journey, you got to see a whole tapestry of humanity. And the way the people that can affirm themselves is so beautiful. Just the amount of possibilities that can happen. And I'm not saying the projection part is a bad thing, John. For that, if you weren't afforded that space yourself, that is a wonderful gift that you can give to others. And just having the awareness of knowing that you have some attachment to that, because like you said, I don't bully of bullies, or some people may not be ready to share that information, right? Some people may not want that light shined on them because they're not in a mind state of being able to deal with it yet. But, the best we can do is just lead and model the way.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I also think that when they were talking about the fact that the chameleon is flowing between the different groups because there is that lack of self-identity. They haven't discovered their own self-identity, and I think that that is also pretty prevalent, especially in your teenage years, your formative years, your grade school, your teenage. You're still searching for your own sense of self. So I think it was beneficial to be able to float between the different groups, like you said, to get those different aspects of different personalities and different characters.
Just our attachment to it, right? That's a positive aspect. I know in my negative aspects of that, though, like if I said something ill or I wasn't receiving the validation from a certain group, I would either just ghost that group and move on to the next one, right? Time to wear another skin,
Yeah.
right? This is I've spent my political capital with the skaters, so time to move on. I'll go hang out with the nerds for a while. And that that sort of attachment, definitely not healthy, but it's just kind of part of growing up. In that, though, I got to try many different methods of what I actually enjoyed. And so when I was ready to put in the emotional work, I had a I had a catalog of groups and behaviors and other items that I could just pull from when I was ready, and just learning all that stuff. And I learned that I like learning. That was a part of me too, that maybe some people have issues recognizing. You don't have to identify. That's a hard thing growing up, especially in going through puberty and those middle years, is like struggling with what identity is, right? Knowing if this is going to be, I don't want to get too meta here, but like, I see myself as a jock or an athlete. And so, this is the marrying expectations with it, right? When we feel guilt and everything, I am falling short of these expectations of being X person. And, the puberty years are really tough because identity becomes a core of that, of trying to understand yourself as a person. And it's just a very difficult journey, if you don't have the tools to give yourself space to recognize who you are, and you're just trying to align put a square peg in a round hole. Say, I'll be fine if I can be the best jock. I'll be fine if I'll be the best Boy Scout, or whatever role I want to wear.
Yeah, I think that's being able to move between the different groups and have different labels that you can switch between, also helps. Is that if I'm not meeting, for me it was, well, if I'm not meeting my expectations here, I can always go over here because I know I can meet those expectations over there. So
Compartmentalization.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with those.
Yeah.
They challenged me here, so I will just not hang out with that group.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Go to the easy side.
Yeah, I think for me, though, fast forward in my adult life, well, especially since I've been sober, a lot of that chameleon stuff has really sloughed away, which is very liberating. It's taken me a long time, but I've become more comfortable in my own space and skin for sure, to where I just really work on the art of not giving a fuck, and it's just a much better place for me to be.
Yeah, I think you become more of your true self.
Yeah, because I don't have the desire to impress or cultivate non-enriching relationships. So it's just kind of me. Patrick, I think you can attest, babe, that what Patrick sees with me is really who I am and what he's getting. If I was not sober, though, I think that'd be different. That's another, is talk about chameleon. There's a lot of drinkers that have a drinking life.
And a sober life.
Yeah. It takes a lot of energy to compartmentalize like that. As we learn growing up to the chameleon, we do that as a survival instinct. We're a different shade. But then you become so good at it that, like, it's almost as if those identities get legs and grow into these beings that take a lot of energy to shift from one to the other. And what I mean by that is, like, when I was also drinking, like, I felt like I gripped it really hard at work. Like, I knew all the right thing. I thought I knew all the right things to say and how to act, and I pressed really hard on a lot of stuff. Went after certifications. I was hungry, right? And then when I came back home, I'm like, well, the dad needs to be this way, right? Or I need to be X way. And when I was with my hockey friends, I really worried about, how I was acting, or, being able to be all jokey and deliver certain lines. I was really intent on how they perceive me there too, right? But the longer you're in those roles and the more you compartmentalize, it takes a lot of effort. Like, it is super taxing. Like you said, John, if you're not able to remove the amount of fucks that you give and just show up as your whole self, fully integrated, like, that was a large journey in sobriety for me too, is bringing that integration of, it's okay to be vulnerable at work. If you're struggling and being frustrated, it's okay to articulate that and show weakness. Also when, you're at home, same with at home. Like, if you're struggling with that role, or, I thought if I pressed so hard into those roles and I didn't show any weaknesses, then I would be fine. And the truth couldn't be any further from that.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I know a couple people that still live their everyday lives like that. They put on a show, and it's extremely disingenuous, and
I don't know any different though.
I know, but I don't think they realize that they've been doing that facade for so long. And it's like, I feel like going, hey man, everyone can see right through it. Have you just tried to take a deep breath and let it out and just say, fuck it, here is me? And again, I just want to believe it or not, you'll be accepted, and then you don't have to put on the work.
I mean, that's how deep the ego goes, man, to protect.
Yeah, I can think of one off the top of my head. I won't say his name, but it's like he's constantly in front of a camera. He's constantly on, and you never know the true person. You never get to know the true person, because there's always the persona.
Veiled. It's like a dessert and frosting on top of a big bowl of shame.
Or, I also like to think of them as fences. Sometimes most of the time we think of fences as foreboding and direct. But sometimes they're shiny and, nicely decorated, and,
White
this very, distracting in themselves. So we all have fences of different types.
Yes.
To keep from getting in here.
For sure. And I do want to clarify that I've put it out into the YouTube universe. I'm far from perfect. I've got a shit ton of flaws, but what helps me really get through a lot of days is just being as honest and sincere that I can. And I have to catch myself sometimes and just stop and go, just, again, with the check-ins. Hey, are you being yourself? Are you creating a facade? Because I don't want to spend that energy. And I do say all of those things out loud as I'm walking through Hy-Vee, and people catch me. They're like, what the fuck is up with this dude? I'm just kidding, Patrick. But
it naturally sorts itself out. The people that don't want to hear it leave.
Yeah.
Right.
And like I've said before, I'm pretty open about a lot of stuff, and I do catch myself, but I can't. So there are people that are not gonna like the things I have to say, and I don't want to be, I do have to temper myself sometimes, but I don't know how to articulate this. Here's an example. There's a guy from the electric company. They've been doing a ton of work, Patrick. I think they're heading your way. They're replacing all the underground electric lines. Anyway, he was in the backyard, and I said, good morning, how's it going? And he said, I'm still sober. I was like, oh my, something just like,
you
wow.
open the door, you're like, yeah, I'm coming in.
Yeah.
Here we go.
He saw me coming at him. He's like, whoa, dude, oh my God, back off. And no, I said, oh yeah, I said, me too, 20 months. And he's like, yeah, and he's like our age, Patrick, and he just jumped right into it. He's like the foreman. He's like, I'm not one of those that I can have just one. I'm like, oh, the rare unicorn. He's like, yeah, but I don't. I end up getting a hangover. I just don't like it at all. Because even if I just have one, I don't have my true self. And he was going on to this whole thing. He's like, and he goes, yeah, some people can't just have one. And I said, that's me. I'm a full-blown alcoholic. My wife and I, we have a show and everything where we talk about this and sobriety. I'm like, yeah, we fantasize sometimes. We catch ourselves about, having a glass of wine. Then we realize that, it would be 3 boxes of wine later and blah, blah, blah. But I walked away and I got back on the lawnmower and I always check in like, Jesus, John, shut the fuck up. The guy just said good morning.
Good morning. Here's our life.
No, but all that to say, I feel good being able to express myself and be free and honest, and I don't know, it's liberating and it's a better place to be. Sobriety has really put me on the better side of life, even though
Definitely.
Even though I get frustrated with the mental health struggles, sometimes it's getting a hell of a lot better. So,
I would agree.
And our sincerity with each other has gotten a heck of a lot better.
Plus, our communication has gotten better, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like you and I talked about this at the apex of our drinking career and alcoholism. I can't believe how many times, maybe in the last 3 or 4 years, to where I started to have very intrusive thoughts about, man, I don't know if I told you this, babe, but I don't know if our marriage is going to last.
I don't think you did mention that, no.
Yeah, I started to feel, and it wasn't you, it was me. I didn't have the emotional capacity, and I didn't know what it was. Heads up, everyone, it's alcoholism. Fucking stop drinking and life will start to get a lot better. But it was just too much. I know I've said that and I could talk about it for hours, Patrick. It just got to the point to where my soul and spirit was just getting deprived. And I always thought that I have really a strong foundation and recovery for my spirit, but I just found myself having to work too hard with the relationship. So I'm sorry, babe. I don't, I love you so much.
I'm glad that we moved past that, because that would have been kind of startling.
When you're always in a defensive posture, as we were in that state of mind, we look to validate ourselves in other groups, and we're always in that hyper awareness state, right? So we're always, and I've said this before, a stimulus waiting to happen, or a reaction to a stimulus waiting to happen. Like, we're on guard. We have to react to everything, right? So we are very much, I don't want to get all woo-woo-y here, but that's more or less an energy vampire, right? You're waiting for your cue outside of yourself. I need X to stimulate my direction where I need to go. I'm just going to be on guard the entire time. And when you learn to cultivate yourself and your soul and become the light within, then you can begin to radiate some of that energy outward. And it's amazing when you let go and can let the flow happen, where you're not. And I was the same way with my wife, like I was either like on guard or in such a defensive mode all the time that permeated over into the relationship. Even if ours was quote unquote good, I was always thinking from a perspective of ill intent, right? Why is she coming at me like this? Why is she nagging me about this? Doesn't she see me? Doesn't she see the work that I'm putting into the house and the kids and the relationship? Blah, 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 blah. Yep, victim. Strong victim. Very energy draining. Instead of just saying like, hey, look, you're a good dad. You're a good husband. You miss this. You miss this thing. You'll get the next one. If it, you need to check in, make sure that, you're providing space for your significant other. If, you need to be aware of the repercussions of your actions and to the depths that they occur, and just be able to sympathize with that. You don't, if she's upset with this, you don't own her reactions to it, right? You can sit there and listen, hear, and, provide space for that type of thing. So, what I'm trying to say is, it's just, it's amazing being on the other side now, how taxing it was
Mm-hmm.
mentally and physically. And this is what I'm just trying to talk about, that energy in general. Many cultures have different perspectives on what this energy is, but it's quite obviously how you engage with others. So
Yeah.
and to your point about going out and talking to the electrician or the foreman out there, I'd kind of pick on, for me, I always lean back on, I'll pick on you, Judy, but the eightfold path, right speech,
Mhm.
just because it is true doesn't mean it always needs to be said. It also has to come with, timing and intent
Mhm.
for right speech type of thing. So there's my long meandering statement.
No,
So
it's-
Thank you,
I'll roll
Patrick.
over the map
That was
there.
good.
There's a lot of good stuff there, Patrick. That's why we appreciate and love you. I want to go back to the marriage thing, because I hope I didn't startle you. It was you
You
and I-
did.
well, baby,
It's okay. I mean, I'm cool. But
you and I talked about this a while ago, and not in this much detail, but you were feeling not so well about it either. Sorry, I wasn't the only one. What it was here, and I'll speak for myself.
no, we weren't as emotionally and mentally and physically involved in our relationship, because the only thing our relationship revolved around at that time was pretty much alcohol.
Right. It
Yeah, you weren't putting into it, so you weren't getting out of it, and
Exactly.
you just question where you're at with it.
right,
Yeah.
It's normal.
and we were doing it for so long, and towards the end it got to be so excessive that
All we did was drink.
you know what, you know how I've said I didn't really have a rock bottom. I kind of crawled along it. I think my rock bottom was that final time when I woke up and I was crying in my pillow and I was hurting physically and spiritually, and it really crossed my mind of I don't have the emotional capacity to take care of myself properly. I think I'm gonna fuck up my marriage somehow. I'm not gonna, and that's not me. It happened for me. It happened fast. It was the sort of the height of drinking a lot. We've gone into how much we drank, but then all of a sudden it like hit a crest of a hill, and that's when I started having those micro seizures in the shower, and the just not being able to bounce back from a hangover. And I don't know. That was the last thing that I wanted to ever happen. Was it's not, we're the most faithful couple that we know, and
Yeah.
there's no, I don't want to say that our marriage would be ruined that way. I'm just saying it would be, again, I couldn't put forth the spiritual effort anymore into our marriage because I couldn't fucking take care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something that I could see happening. So something had to give.
Yeah, once you made that initial suggestion, I was fully on board,
Yeah.
because I think at that point I knew that we had to make a serious change,
Yeah.
because I knew for my own self, my own physical body was not happy.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I could feel my liver, so I knew that if I kept going down this path, I was going to suffer some major stuff.
Yeah.
Major stuff. And I think emotionally and mentally, I had just shut down. I was high all the time, 24/7, because I didn't want to deal with anything that was going on. So I would just get high and numb it out and didn't have to worry about it.
So now that he said that out loud, Sounded like there were some undercurrents that you understood where he was coming from, but now that he articulated that out loud, Judy, how do you feel?
I feel glad we're sober because that when he first initially said that, I was like, you kind of catch your breath a little bit, like, oh God. I didn't realize that he was that severe at that point. I mean, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know that it was that bad.
Yeah.
But I am glad that that we're sober now, because I don't know if he would have been able to express himself while we were in the disease as well as he's expressing himself now, so that I could understand where he was at. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You guys are impressive. Every time, challenges come up, you have doubled down on each other. And that's not to say that it is effortless in your guys' joint commitment too, right? You just shared something that was very difficult and hard, but gratitude for where we are at now. That's kind of a wonderful story in a sense, like if he felt that impending pressure, it wasn't even a question to him
Yeah.
to choose you. So
I'm very grateful that he did.
I love you extremely much, if that's a word. And I can't, the partnership we have is fantastic. And
Yes. And I love you too.
the hardest part that I struggle with is the closer somebody gets to me inside my heart. Along that journey, in order for that to happen, I have to love myself just as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if I can't recognize the stuff that my partner sees and is close, I mean, that's a lot to get hung up on.
Yeah, and you don't feel you deserve it.
Yeah.
I don't think if we had done all the work that we did, I wouldn't be able to accept his affection for me, or be able to give him the affection that I have for him, because I wouldn't feel that I would deserve it.
Yep. Why do you love me? I'm such a piece of shit. Right? It's almost like as if you get angry at, I remember being angry at some of those people that would give love unconditionally like that, because I was unable to see that in myself.
Yeah.
I was angry, like thinking, of course, the victim is strong, fuck you, you're just showing me pity, and I would project all this nasty imagery outward, like, you just think you're better than me, you're just giving me some pity love here or something like that, and in the reality is, the truth was, I just couldn't accept myself for who I was at that point. So the more vulnerable I become, and the more intimate emotionally, mentally, and spiritually I become with my wife, I have to venture on that journey with myself too, to meet her there.
Yeah. Yeah, you bring up a very good point.
Yeah, I've noticed a marked change in you too, as far as you giving yourself a lot more grace. You have a different confidence and self-care foundation. It's taken a while, and you're continuing to definitely develop it, but I think that's what was frustrating for me too, for the many years towards the end, was the pot consumption. It just masks your soul. People can smoke pot, some people can't, for the record. I'm not an anti-weed dude, but for people that it just, when it grabs hold of you and you do it 24/7, it's not
all
good.
about attachment.
Yep.
Yeah, it's all about addiction. I was definitely an addict.
What was hurtful, I think, was times when we'd be present, and then we'd be present with each other, and then we would start to drink, and then you would smoke, and then the presence was gone.
Yeah.
That was hurtful to not you, but the situation that we were putting ourselves in. I think that was sort of the crack in the marriage that I'm talking about.
I think there was multiple cracks. I think it was just. I think the alcohol, the pot, the
not dealing with stuff because of it.
Yeah, the masking, the
Masking.
lack of internal work.
I mean, the alcoholism was that final form of the chameleon and don't mix, right? Like it was my own social group where I just validated myself, or didn't validate myself, I should say. Like and it was the hard mutes so far that I could drink and I would quote unquote feel okay, right? I didn't have to. It was a group that validated me, and I didn't have to. It was just like I said, that hard mute button where not. It's the final not mixing any other group because you just isolate yourself so fucking much.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michelle said that when Guy was drinking, divorce was always on the table and part of the conversation. She says now it's almost a bad word. They never talk about it because they're sober.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not the only ones. Unfortunately, that's probably the crux of a shit ton of divorces is addiction out there.
Yeah.
Alcoholism or otherwise. It's just, yeah. Okay. You're harshing my vibe. Okay. We're at 11. This has been a fantastic conversation. I love this format.
It's been good. Thank you.
Yeah. Patrick, do you have any final thoughts before I start to close this out here?
No, I love this format as well. Thanks as always for sharing and showing up and being vulnerable and putting the work in. I love chatting with you guys.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Likewise, my friend. Okay.
You always have such good information. I love it. It's awesome.
I have a ton of crap that I sort through, and you guys get to share your pieces, and I get to try and relate my crap to it. That's it. I'm just a reflection of what you guys bring up.
Take the compliment, Patrick.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm so. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love our chats, the way that we compliment and reflect on each other's thoughts. And yeah, you complete me.
For sure. For sure. All right, real quick before we head out, Ed says, in a weird sort of way, it's kind of a lady hawk syndrome. Get close, then the addiction enters and separates you.
Is that dated?
I don't know.
Lady Hawk was like a while ago, wasn't it?
I don't know. Hey, just say, yeah, nice one.
Nice one, Ed. That was really awesome. Sorry.
Okay.
But yes, you're right. If I'm thinking of the same reference, then yes, you're absolutely right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. That was my control nature coming out. Thank you, Michelle. Okay. Next Saturday, we're going to continue on with the Patrick Teehan series. Yeah, Ed said yes. Patrick Teehan discussions. We're going to do the on-the-spot dissociation. I know this one's going to resonate. Well, all of these do. But yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about.
Old movie. Yeah.
Okay, and the top there, I'm doing a little bit of format adjustment. As you can see, we got the Patrick cam up there. That's where it's going to be parked. I'm removing our rear cam. It freezes all the time anyway, and we don't need all these different views. I'm one of those guys, when I buy equipment, I like to use it, because if I'm not using it, then what's the deal? So I'm going to get rid of one. We don't need all that. And we got the browser set up properly and all that good jazz. So if anyone has any feedback, let us know. Okay. We got our graphics up there. So we got to remember, if anyone you know or love has suicidal thoughts or ideation, please direct them to the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. give them a place to talk to someone. If you or a loved one or someone you know is struggling with addiction, or a family member that has addiction and or alcoholism, or just needs to turn the page and get a new chapter and get out of the situation they're in with their drugs and or booze, tell them to go check out Al-Anon. Fantastic organization, non-judgmental, super great space for people to start to explore options to adjust the path they're going down. We have, before I wrap it up, 93,000 views and 274 subscribers. That's fantastic. Great support out there.
Thank you.
When I upload the podcast after this, that's getting just a ton. It's like 30 downloads a week, which is a lot for a podcast. So
That's awesome.
Just imagine people are driving around in their cars listening to us. Like, I wonder if they're like, man, that Patrick fella, sage wisdom. And that John is just a baby. Crybaby baby. And that Judy's got such a nice laugh.
Either that or they listen to these train wrecks.
That's right. They're like, I listen to these fools because it makes me feel better about myself.
Yeah.
Whatever. You do you.
You do you.
All right, Patrick, my friend, we love you very much. Thank you for being a part of this.
Yes, thank you, Patrick.
Love you guys.
All right, and thanks to everyone out there for continuing to support us. And we'll see you guys. Be kind to yourselves. Yes. All right.
Nailed it.
We'll be. And we will see you guys next Saturday. Bye, y'all.